William Kidd. William Kidd, LLC, 1645, 23 May 1701, also known as Captain William Kidd or simply Captain Kidd, was a Scottish privateer. Conflicting accounts exist regarding his early life, but he was likely born in Dundee and later settled in New York City. By 1690, Kidd had become a highly successful privateer, commissioned to protect English interests in North America and the West Indies. In 1695, Kidd received a royal commission from the Earl of Bellamont, the governor of New York, Massachusetts Bay, and New Hampshire, to hunt down pirates and enemy French ships in the Indian Ocean. He received a letter of marque and set sail on a new ship, Adventure Galley, the following year. On his voyage, he failed to find many targets, lost much of his crew, and faced threats of mutiny. In 1698, Kidd captured his greatest prize, the 400-ton Quidditch Merchant, a ship hired by Armenian merchants and captained by an Englishman. The political climate in England had turned against him, however, and he was denounced as a pirate. Bellamont engineered Kidd's arrest upon his return to Boston and sent him to stand trial in London. He was found guilty and hanged in 1701. Kidd was romanticized after his death, and his exploits became a popular subject of pirate-themed works of fiction. The belief that he had left buried treasure contributed significantly to his legend, which inspired numerous treasure hunts in the following centuries. Life and career. Early life and education. Kidd was born in Dundee, Scotland prior to October 15, 1654. While claims have been made of alternate birthplaces, including Greenock and even Belfast, he said himself he came from Dundee in a testimony given by Kidd to the High Court of Admiralty in 1695. There have also been records of his baptism taking place in Dundee. A local society supported the family financially after the death of the father. That a source needed the myth that his father was thought to have been a Church of Scotland minister has been discounted, insofar as there is no mention of the name in comprehensive Church of Scotland records for the period. Others still hold the contrary view. Hunting for pirates. In September 1696, Kidd weighed anchor and set course for the Cape of Good Hope in southern Africa. A third of his crew died on the Comoros. Due to an outbreak of cholera, the brand new ship developed many leaks, and he failed to find the pirates whom he expected to encounter off Madagascar. With his ambitious enterprise failing, Kidd became desperate to cover its costs. Yet, he failed to attack several ships when given a chance, including a Dutchman and a New York privateer. Both were out of bounds of his commission. The latter would have been considered out of bounds because New York was part of the territories of the Crown, and Kidd was authorized in part by the New York governor. Some of the crew deserted Kidd the next time that Adventure Galley anchored offshore. Those who decided to stay on made constant open threats of mutiny, trial and execution. Prior to returning to New York City, Kidd knew that he was wanted as a pirate and that several English men of war were searching for him. Realizing that Adventure Prize was a market vessel, he cached it in the Caribbean Sea, sold off his remaining plundered goods through pirate and fence William Burke, and continued towards New York aboard a sloop. He deposited some of his treasure on Gardiner's Island, hoping to use his knowledge of its location as a bargaining tool. 39 Kidd landed in Oyster Bay to avoid mutinous crew who had gathered in New York City. To avoid them, Kidd sailed 120 nautical miles, 220 km, 140 mi, around the eastern tip of Long Island, and doubled back 90 nautical miles, 170 km, 100 mi along the Sound to Oyster Bay. He felt this was a safer passage than the highly trafficked narrows between Staten Island and Brooklyn. New York Governor Bellamont, also an investor, was away in Boston, Massachusetts. Aware of the accusations against Kidd, Bellamont was afraid of being implicated in piracy himself and believed that presenting Kidd to England in chains was his best chance to survive. He lured Kidd into Boston with false promises of clemency and ordered him arrested on 6 July 1699. Kidd was placed in Stone Prison, spending most of the time in solitary confinement. His wife, Sarah, was also arrested and imprisoned. The conditions of Kidd's imprisonment were extremely harsh and were said to have driven him at least temporarily insane. By then, Bellamont had turned against Kidd and other pirates, writing that the inhabitants of Long Island were a lawless and unruly people. protecting pirates who had settled among them. The civil government had changed, and the new Tory ministry hoped to use Kidd as a tool to discredit the Whigs who had backed him, but Kidd refused to name names, naively confident his patrons would reward his loyalty by interceding on his behalf. There is speculation that he could have been spared had he talked. Finding Kidd politically useless, the Tory leaders sent him to stand trial before the High Court of Admiralty in London for the charges of piracy on high seas and the murder of William Moore. Whilst awaiting trial, Kidd was confined in the infamous Newgate prison,